The reflection in the mirror of the luxurious bathroom of the Imperial Hotel Seoul showed an unrecognizable Park Mi-rae. Her long black hair was now tied up in a discreet bun, brown contact lenses replaced her naturally honey-colored eyes, and her waitress uniform contrasted drastically with the designer dresses she usually wore. Her heart was pounding as she adjusted the badge with the fake name, Young Hae-won. "My brother can't marry that opportunist," she muttered to herself, recalling the conversation she had accidentally overheard the night before in her father's office. Park Jin-ho, her eldest brother and the main heir to the Imperial Group, was about to go on a blind date with Yoon Soo-min, the daughter of an important politician. The arranged marriage would benefit both families, but Mi-rae had discovered that Soo-min had a dark history of manipulation and carefully covered up scandals. Le Seal Restaurant, located on the 63rd floor of the Imperial chain's most prestigious hotel in Gangnam, was to host the meeting. Mi-rae had managed to sneak in as a temporary waitress thanks to the help of her best friend, Choi Ji-won, the hotel's human resources manager. "Have you gone mad?" Ji-won had questioned when Mi-rae revealed her plan. "If your father finds out, he'll thank me when he realizes I've prevented a disaster for our family," Mi-rae replied with determination. As he walked through the restaurant service corridors, Mi-rae watched the staff's movements carefully. The French chef shouted orders in a peculiar mixture of French and Korean, while the waiters moved with military precision. Le Seal wasn't just a restaurant. It was an institution, known for its discretion and excellence. Young Hae-won Shi called out the maitre d', Lee Sung-min. "Table 12 is your responsibility today." Table 12, exactly where his brother and Soo-min would be sitting. Mi-rae silently thanked her luck, but her moment of satisfaction was interrupted by an imposing presence entering the restaurant. Kim Seo-jun, CEO of the Vision Group, Imperial's direct rival, strode into the room with the confidence characteristic of those born to lead. Mi-rae knew him only from pictures in business magazines and headlines describing him as the Shark of Seoul because of his ability to identify and acquire promising companies before the competition. "Mr. Kim, your usual table is ready," announced the maitre d', leading him towards table 14, dangerously close to his brother's table. Mi-rae felt a chill. Seo-jun's presence complicated everything. He knew Jin-ho from business circles, and although she had never been formally introduced to him, there was a risk that she would be recognized as the imperial heiress. The next few minutes were tense. Mi-rae served water and presented the menu while discreetly watching for her brother's arrival. Jin-ho entered punctually, impeccable in his Italian suit, followed by a stunning woman in a red dress. "Yoon Soo-min, sparkling water, please?" asked Seo-jun, his keen eyes studying Mi-rae's every move. There was something about her posture that intrigued him, an elegance that seemed out of place for a simple waitress. Mi-rae went about her tasks mechanically, dividing her attention between serving Seo-jun and monitoring the conversation at table 12. Her plan was simple. While serving the main course, accidentally spill red wine on Soo-min's dress, creating an awkward situation that would ruin the date. However, the more he listened to the conversation between Jin-ho and Soo-min, the more his stomach churned. The woman was more cunning than he had imagined, weaving a web of half-truths with the skill of an experienced spider. "Volunteering has always been my passion," Mi-rae heard Soo-min say, knowing that the only charity events she attended were those with press coverage. "Fascinating." Seo-jun's voice surprised her. "You remind me of someone." Mi-rae froze, realizing that she had been standing next to his table for too long. "More water, sir?" "Actually, I'd like to know why a person with your refined manners is working as a waitress," he commented in a low voice, an enigmatic smile on his lips. The moment was interrupted by a shout from table 12. Soo-min was on her feet, red wine dripping down her red dress. Mi-rae blinked in confusion. She hadn't executed her plan yet. "1,000 pardons." Ji-won bowed repeatedly. She was the one who had knocked over the wine, casting a complicit glance at Mi-rae. The chaos that followed was exactly what Mi-rae had planned, but executed by other hands. Soo-min abandoned her elegant facade, letting her true temper show as she shouted at the hotel manager. "Do you have any idea how much this dress costs? I demand to speak to your superior immediately." Jean Ho tried to calm the situation, but the damage had been done. The meeting had ended disastrously, and more importantly, he had seen a side of Sue Men that she preferred to keep hidden. As the confusion unfolded, Mireille felt Seo Jun's gaze fixed on her back. There was something predatory in his observation, as if he were putting together the pieces of a puzzle. Interesting how some people show their true nature in moments of crisis, he commented as she passed his desk. Don't you agree, Miss Park? Mireille's blood ran cold. He knew it. Somehow, Kim Seo Jun had discovered his identity. But before she could answer, he left a card on the table and stood up. When you decide to be honest about your intentions, come and see me. Perhaps we can discuss more than just the menu. Mireille stood paralyzed, watching his imposing figure leave the restaurant. In his hands, the card with the Vision Group logo seemed to weigh a ton. Her plan had worked, but at what cost? Now he was on Kim Seo Jun's radar, and something told him that this was just the beginning of a much more complicated story than he had planned. The day after the incident at Le Seal, Mireille watched the city of Seoul through the windows of her office on the 45th floor of the Imperial Tower. Seo Jun's card lay on her desk, taunting her with its presence. How had he recognized her? The question had been on her mind since the night before. Mississippi Park, your father requests your presence in the meeting room, his secretary announced over the intercom. Mireille adjusted her Chanel blazer and walked through the mirrored corridors of the executive office. Employees bowed respectfully as she passed, not imagining that this same woman had served drinks the night before. In the meeting room, she found not only her father, Park Sung-ho, but also Jean Ho, who looked particularly downcast. The family patriarch was standing, gazing at the panoramic view of Gangnam. Mireille, did you hear about the incident last night? Asked his father, without turning around. I heard comments, he replied cautiously, taking a seat next to his brother. Sue Min withdrew from the marriage proposal. Jean Ho sighed, loosening his tie. Maybe it's for the best. She didn't react well to a simple accident. Mireille felt a twinge of guilt when she saw the weariness in her brother's eyes, but she knew she had done the right thing. Oppa, sometimes accidents show us people's true nature. Speaking of nature, his father finally turned around. Kim Seo Jun called this morning. He proposed an interesting partnership for our new project in Jeju. Mireille's heart raced. Could it be a coincidence? The Vision Group has resources that could benefit the Jeju Imperial Resort, continued Sung-ho. Mireille, I want you to lead the negotiations. Me? Mireille straightened up in her chair. Dad, Jean Ho Oppa has more experience and you studied hotel management at Cornell, you know the international market, and most importantly, you have the kind of acumen needed to deal with Seo Jun. Her father interrupted her. Besides, your brother needs to focus on other matters now. As she left the meeting room, Mireille felt the weight of irony. Her attempt to protect her family had ended up creating an even more complex situation. In her apartment in Apgujeong that evening, Mireille shared her anguish with Ji-won over a bottle of wine. He's playing you, Ji-won declared, refilling their glasses. Seo Jun probably plans to use this as leverage in the negotiations. But why propose a partnership? The Vision Group has always been our biggest competitor, Mireille questioned, recalling the years of rivalry between the companies. Maybe he has other motives. Ji-won smiled mischievously. You have to admit he's attractive. Yeah, don't start. Mireille threw a pillow at her friend. That's business. A flash of memory went through her mind. At 17, at a charity party in Tokyo, she had seen Seo Jun for the first time. He was already CEO of Vision then, impressing everyone with his intelligence and charm. Mireille was hiding behind a column, running away from the social presentations her father insisted on giving, when she heard him passionately defending a sustainability project. The sound of her cell phone brought her back to the present. A message from an unknown number. The cafe at the Vision Hotel has a magnificent view of the sunrise. 7 a.m. tomorrow. KSJ, he got your personal number. G1 peeked at the message, impressed. It's definitely not just business. The next morning, Mireille found herself going up to the rooftop cafe of the Vision Hotel. Seo Jun was already there, looking impeccable in a navy blue suit, observing Seoul's orange skyline. Miss Park, he smiled, indicating the chair in front of her. Or would you prefer me to call you Ms. Yum? How did you know? Mireille got straight to the point. Your perfume, he replied simply. Chanel N²5. The same fragrance I smelled in Tokyo 8 years ago. Mireille froze. Do you remember that night? The young imperial heiress who preferred watching people to be in the center of attention? Hard to forget. Seo Jun took a sip of his coffee. But I confess I didn't expect to find her disguised as a waitress. Why the partnership proposal? Mireille changed the subject, trying to regain control of the situation. Because sometimes, Miss Park, the best way to win is not by defeating your opponent, but by joining forces. He leaned in slightly. And because I'm curious to find out what other hidden talents you possess besides an excellent performance as a waitress. The sun finally emerged in full, bathing Seoul in golden light. Mireille realized that she was entering a dangerous game where the rules were unclear and the stakes were extremely high. Preliminary meeting tomorrow, 10 a.m., at the Imperial, she proposed, standing up. I can't wait. Seo Jun smiled, that same enigmatic smile from the restaurant. Oh, and Mireille she? Next time you want to investigate someone, just ask me. I have an excellent corporate intelligence department. As the elevator descended, Mireille tried to calm her racing heart. Kim Seo Jun was more dangerous than she had imagined, not just because of his business acumen, but because of his ability to see through her carefully constructed defenses. What had begun as a simple mission to protect her brother had turned into something much more complex. And now, caught between her duty to her family and an attraction that shouldn't exist, Mireille realized that she was walking a very fine line. The conference hall of the Imperial Tower was buzzing with executives from the Vision Group and Imperial. Mireille nervously adjusted her jade bracelet, an heirloom from her grandmother, as she watched Kim Seo Jun present the projected figures for the Imperial Jeju Resort. With the fusion of our hospitality technologies and Imperial's expertise in luxury services, we can revolutionize Jeju's tourism market, Seo Jun explained, his eyes occasionally meeting Mireille's. The presentation was impeccable, but Mireille noticed subtleties that others might miss. The proposal gave the Vision Group access to strategic imperial information that went far beyond the project in Jeju. We need to discuss a few points in private, Mireille interrupted, standing up. Mr. Kim, can we continue this conversation in my office? Seo Jun's smile was almost imperceptible as he replied, With pleasure, Miss Park. On the way to her office, Mireille received an urgent message from Ji-won. I've found out something about Seo Jun. We need to talk. Now. Give me a moment, Mireille said to Seo Jun as they arrived at the office. I need to sort out an emergency. In the executive restroom, Ji-won was waiting anxiously. Mireille, you won't believe it. Seo Jun was involved with your family before. He and his father. The bathroom door opened abruptly, revealing an elegant woman that Mireille instantly recognized from business magazines. Yuki Tanaka, the famous Japanese architect responsible for the Vision Group's most innovative projects. Park Mireille she, Yuki smiled, calmly applying lipstick. Or should I say, Young Hae-won she? Mireille turned pale. Ji-won squeezed her arm in warning. Don't worry, Yuki continued. Your secret is safe with me. After all, I also have my own with Seo Jun. Before Mireille could reply, Yuki left the bathroom, leaving an expensive perfume and several questions in the air. She and Seo Jun have a history, Ji-won whispered. But that's not the important thing. Mireille, 15 years ago, your father and Seo Jun worked together on a project in Busan. Something went wrong, terribly wrong. Mireille returned to the office with her mind in turmoil. Seo Jun was standing by the window, watching the city. You look upset, he commented, turning around. Why didn't you ever mention that you knew my father? Mireille confronted him directly. Seo Jun's smile faded. Busan is a complicated chapter in my history, Mireille she. As is yours. What are you talking about? The fire at the port of Busan in 2008. The joint project that ended in tragedy. Your father never told the real story, did he? Mireille sat down, her legs weakening. The fire had destroyed an entire complex and caused several deaths. Her father rarely talked about it. The partnership in Jeju, Mireille began to understand. It's not just about business, is it? Nothing is just about business in our world, Mireille Seo Jun approached, his presence dominating the atmosphere. Just as your disguise in the restaurant wasn't just about protecting your brother. What do you want? The truth, he replied simply. And maybe, in the process, we can find redemption for our parents' mistakes. A knock on the door interrupted the tense conversation. Yuki Tanaka entered without waiting for an answer. Seo Jun, we need to go over the Jeju projects, she said, deliberately ignoring the charged atmosphere. Mireille observed the familiarity with which Yuki treated Seo Jun, feeling an inexplicable pang of annoyance. Tomorrow, Seo Jun replied firmly. I'm in the middle of an important meeting. As you wish. Yuki smiled enigmatically. Mireille, I'd love to have coffee sometime. I'm sure we have a lot in common. After she left, silence hung heavy between Mireille and Seo Jun. She knows about the restaurant, Mireille noted. Yuki has her own reasons for keeping secrets, Seo Jun replied vaguely. So do we all. Mireille stood up, walking over to the window. Seoul stretched out below them, a web of intertwined connections and stories. Have dinner with me tonight, Seo Jun suddenly proposed. Not as Vision CEO. Not as the imperial heiress. Just Mireille and Seo Jun. The invitation hung in the air, fraught with possibility and danger. Why should I trust you? Mireille asked. For the same reason I trusted you when I saw you in disguise in that restaurant, he replied. Sometimes you have to take a risk to find out the truth. Mireille thought of her father, of Busan, of all the secrets that seemed to emerge like shadows at sunset. 27 at 8, she finally answered. It's a discreet restaurant in Gangnam. I know, Seo Jun smiled. That's where your father and I closed the Busan deal. As she watched Seo Jun leave, Mireille realized that she was entering much deeper waters than she had imagined. The game of disguises and lies that had begun at Lucille was only the surface of a much more complex story. Her phone vibrated with another message from Ji-won. There's more on Busan. Much more. Be careful, Mireille. The night promised to reveal truths that she might not have been ready to face, but there was no turning back. Past and present were about to collide, and Mireille was at the center of the storm. 27, discreetly located in a traditional Gangnam alley, was famous for its architecture that blended modern elements with the charm of old Korean tea houses. Mireille purposely arrived 10 minutes late, trying to calm her nerves while the valet took her Mercedes. Seo Jun was already waiting for her in a private room on the second floor, where antique wood paneling created an intimate atmosphere. He had swapped his corporate suit for a casual black shirt, which only accentuated his imposing presence. I thought maybe you were coming, he commented, getting up to pull out a chair for her. I'm still deciding if it was a good idea, Mireille replied, taking a seat. Her navy blue dress brushed lightly against his arm, causing an involuntary shiver. A bottle of wine was already open on the table, breathing. Mireille recognized the label. It was the same wine her father kept in his private cellar for special occasions. I remember your father always said that great truths need great wines, Seo Jun commented, pouring the glasses. You seem to know a lot about my family, Mireille observed, her fingers playing with the rim of the glass. Whereas I barely know anything about you, apart from what's in the business magazines. What do you want to know? He leaned in slightly. Busan. The beginning. Seo Jun took a long sip of wine before answering. I had just taken over Vision. Your father saw potential in a young 27-year-old CEO when no one else would have bet on me. The port project was going to be revolutionary, green technology, sustainable jobs, a new model of port development. What went wrong? Corruption, he replied, his voice hardening. We discovered that low-quality materials were being used in the construction. When we confronted those responsible, the waiter interrupted, bringing the first course. Mireille barely registered what she was eating, concentrating on the story. The fire wasn't accidental, Seo Jun continued after the waiter left. It was a warning. Your father tried to protect me by taking full responsibility publicly. Why? Mireille whispered, memories of her father at that time coming back, the sleepless nights, the whispered phone calls, the sadness in his eyes. Because he knew I had proof, documents that could expose the whole scheme, but also destroy several powerful families, Seo Jun explained. He made me promise to keep those documents until the right time. Mi-ray felt her world spin. And now is the right time? Now we have a chance to correct the mistakes of the past with the Jeju project. He reached for her hand on the table. But I need to make sure I can trust you completely. His touch was warm, sending waves of electricity through her arm. Mi-ray wanted to pull her hand away, but something kept her there. How can I trust you when you clearly have secrets of your own? She wondered. Yuki Tanaka, for example? An enigmatic smile appeared on Seo Jun's lips. Yuki is a valuable ally, but she also has her own reasons for being involved in this story. And what are they? Her father was one of the investors in Busan. He committed suicide after the scandal, Seo Jun revealed, his fingers unconsciously caressing Mi-ray's hand. Her cell phone vibrated, breaking the moment. It was a message from G1. Documents found. Yuki Tanaka is not who he says he is. Be careful. Mi-ray tried to keep her composure as she read the message, but Seo Jun noticed her expression change. More revelations from your investigative friend? He asked, an amused tone in his voice. How did you? G1 is excellent at her job, but she leaves digital traces, he explained. Don't worry, I don't intend to interfere in your investigations. Dinner continued, a delicate dance of revelations and guarded secrets. Every word seemed to have multiple meanings. Every gesture carried the weight of 15 years of untold history. When they left the restaurant, the Seoul night was surprisingly clear, the stars visible despite the city lights. Let me take you home, Seo Jun offered. I came with my car, Mi-ray politely refused, even though she felt an inexplicable desire to prolong the evening. Mi-ray he called out as she headed for the valet. Tomorrow there will be a meeting at Bijan on Jeju. Yuki will be presenting the preliminary designs. I'll be there, she replied, turning around. And Mi-ray, he took 2 steps toward her. Whatever truth your friend has discovered about Yuki, keep it to yourself for now. Some revelations need their right timing. On the way home, Mi-ray couldn't stop thinking about all the connections that were revealing themselves. Her phone rang. It was G1. Mi-ray, you won't believe it. Her friend sounded breathless. Yuki Tanaka died 12 years ago in the Busan fire. The woman we know is an imposter. Mi-ray's car almost skidded on the bend. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together, but the picture they formed was more frightening than she could have imagined. Mi-ray couldn't sleep that night. The revelations about Yuki plagued her mind as she scoured old reports about the Busan fire. In the early hours of the morning, she found a black and white photograph. A young Yuki Tanaka smiling next to her father at a corporate event, months before the tragedy. The woman in the photo looked nothing like the Yuki he had met at Imperial Tower. I found more information. G1 walked into Mi-ray's office at 7:30, carrying a thick folder. The real Yuki Tanaka was an architectural prodigy. After her death, someone meticulously assumed her identity. And guess what? All the original documents about her have mysteriously disappeared from the public archives. Seo Jun knows, Mi-ray muttered, remembering his warning the night before. But why keep an imposter so close? Before G1 could answer, the secretary announced that the Vision Group's car had arrived to pick up Mi-ray for the meeting. The Vision building was an imposing glass and steel structure in the heart of Gangnam. Mi-ray looked at her reflection in the mirrored doors of the executive elevator. She had chosen a white tailored suit, projecting a confidence she didn't fully feel. The meeting room on the 50th floor overlooked the Han River. Seo Jun was already there, chatting quietly with Yuki in a corner. When he saw Mi-ray, he interrupted the conversation, his dark eyes studying her intensely. Mi-ray, Yuki smiled, that same enigmatic smile from the bathroom. I hope you're ready for some surprises today. The presentation began, and Mi-ray realized that something was wrong. The projects Yuki was showing weren't just innovative, they were familiar. Specific details were reminiscent of designs that Imperial had developed in-house months ago, designs that had never been made public. How did you get hold of these concepts? Mireille interrupted, her voice cutting through the air-conditioned room. Yuki's smile faltered for a second. Great minds think alike, don't they? Or maybe some minds have access to information they shouldn't have, Mireille retorted, standing up. Mr. Kem, can we talk in private? In Seo Jun's office, the tension was palpable. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul seemed small and distant. Did you know she was stealing our projects? Mireille confronted. It's not that simple, Seo Jun replied, pouring himself a glass of water. Yuki, or whoever she is, has access to information that could destroy much more than just our companies. Who is she really? Yuki Tanaka's younger sister, he revealed after a long silence. She didn't die in the fire like everyone thinks. She was there that night. She saw things that no one should see. Mireille sat down, her legs shaking. Why the farce? Protection. Revenge. Sometimes the line between the two is blurred. Seo Jun approached, leaning on his desk. She is evidence about who really ordered the fire. My father? No. Seo Jun gently touched Mireille's face, a surprisingly gentle gesture. Your uncle, Park Young-ho. Your father's younger brother, who mysteriously disappeared after the incident. Mireille's world seemed to fall apart. Her uncle had been her mentor, the person who had inspired her to study hotel management. His presumed death in a boating accident had always seemed suspicious. Why are you telling me this now? She asked, aware of the closeness between them. Because I need you to understand that we all wear masks, Mireille. Some to survive, others to protect those we love. His fingers gently traced her jawline. The question is, when is it time to drop them? The moment was interrupted by urgent knocks on the door. Ji-won entered, panting. Mireille, your father, he collapsed during a meeting. He's in hospital. The world seemed to freeze. Mireille felt Seo Jun's arms supporting her before her legs gave way. I'll take you, he said, his firm voice anchoring her to reality. In the corridor, they met Yuki, who was watching the scene with an indecipherable expression. It's starting, she murmured. Just like 15 years ago. In the car on the way to the hospital, Mireille struggled to organize her thoughts. Seo Jun drove in silence, occasionally casting worried glances in her direction. Did my father know, she finally asked, about my uncle? Your father has been carrying more secrets than anyone should, Seo Jun replied softly. Maybe it's time some of them came to light. When they arrived at the hospital, Jin-ho was waiting at the entrance to the emergency room. His normally composed face showed clear signs of concern. Appa. Mireille ran to hug him. How is he? Stable, Jin-ho replied, noting Seo Jun's presence with surprise. But before he fainted, he kept repeating something about Busan and needing to tell the truth. Mireille exchanged a meaningful glance with Seo Jun. The masks were beginning to fall, and the consequences were inevitable. The Samsung Medical Center hospital emanated that familiar aseptic atmosphere as Mireille followed Jin-ho through the corridors of the cardiac ward. The sound of her heels echoed against the white walls, each step bringing her closer to truths she might rather not have known. The doctors say it was a severe anxiety attack, Jin-ho explained, his controlled voice masking his concern. He was on a video conference with investors when he started mumbling about Busan and just collapsed. Mireille stopped in front of the bedroom door, her hand hesitating on the doorknob. Seo Jun's silent presence behind her offered a strange comfort. You two seem close, Jin-ho observed, his eyes alternating between his sister and Vision Seo. It's complicated, Mireille replied, an echo of the complexity their lives had become. Inside the room, Park Sam-ho looked smaller and more fragile against the hospital sheets. The man who had always emanated power and authority was now connected to monitors that beeped rhythmically. Appa. Mireille approached the bed, holding her father's hand. His eyes opened slowly, focusing first on Mireille, then on Seo Jun, who stood discreetly near the door. So you finally found out, Sun-ho murmured, his voice hoarse. About your uncle, about everything. Why didn't you ever tell us? Jin-ho asked, positioning himself on the other side of the bed. To protect them, Sung Ho tried to sit up, only to be gently stopped by Mi Ray. Young Ho, he wasn't who he thought he was. The fire in Busan was just the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Park, Seo Jun finally spoke up, coming closer. The documents you entrusted me with. Maybe it's time. Sung Ho nodded slowly. In my office at home, behind the painting of Jeju. There's a safe. The password is your mother's birthday. Mi Ray felt a tightness in her chest. Her mother had died when she was only 5, but her father had never failed to celebrate that date in silence. There's one more thing, Sung Ho continued, his breathing becoming more labored. Yuki, the real Yuki, she discovered something in the weeks before the fire. Something about a side project that Young Ho was developing with the Yakuza. The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. Jean Ho let out an exclamation of surprise, while Mi Ray unconsciously squeezed her father's hand. The fake Yuki, Seo Jun said, Sakura Tanaka, the younger sister, she spent years collecting evidence, preparing for this moment. That's why the partnership with Vision in Jeju. Mi Ray suddenly understood. It's not just a real estate project, it's a way of exposing the truth. And that's probably why your father had this breakdown. A new voice joined the conversation. At the bedroom door stood Yuki, or rather Sakura, her normally composed face revealing signs of tension. How dare you come here? Jean Ho advanced towards her, but Seo Jun intercepted him. She has as much right as we do, Seo Jun stated. Maybe even more. 15 years, Sakura said, her voice trembling slightly. 15 years of pretending to be my own sister, infiltrating the same corporations that caused her death. Do you know what's most ironic? I've learned to admire the man who tried to stop it all. She looked directly at Sung Ho, who returned her gaze with a mixture of sadness and understanding. Appa, Mi Ray gently squeezed her father's hand. We need to know the whole truth. Sung Ho closed his eyes for a moment, as if organizing long-buried thoughts. Young Ho was laundering money through the port project, he began. When I found out, I confronted him. He threatened to expose some family secrets that would destroy not only our reputation but also your future. What secrets? Jean Ho asked, his voice barely contained. About your mother's death, Sung Ho replied, a solitary tear running down his cheek. It wasn't a car accident like we said. She found out about Young Ho's illegal business and the heart monitor began to beat more rapidly. A nurse rushed into the room. We need to ask you to leave, she said firmly. The patient needs to rest. In the corridor, the group remained silent, each processing the revelations. Mi Ray felt as if the ground was disappearing beneath her feet. The safe. Seo Jun gently touched her shoulder. We need to check it now. I'll go with you, Sakura declared. I've waited long enough for answers. Jean Ho ran his hands over his face, looking suddenly exhausted. I'll stay here with Dad. Keep me posted. In the elevator descending to the parking garage, Mi Ray observed Sakura's reflection in the mirror. The woman who had pretended to be someone else for so long now seemed more real, more human in her vulnerability. Why continue with the disguise, even after all these years? Mi Ray couldn't resist asking. Because some truths can only be revealed when all the pieces are in place, Sakura replied, exchanging a meaningful glance with Seo Jun. And now, finally, they are. The Park Mansion, located in the exclusive Pyeongchangdong district, seemed strangely silent when Mi Ray, Seo Jun, and Sakura arrived. The housekeeper, Mrs. Kim, opened the door with a worried expression when she saw the unusual trio. Mississippi Park, we didn't expect. Who are your companions? She asked hesitantly, her eyes fixed on Sakura. Urgent business in my father's office, Mi Ray replied, her firm voice leaving no room for questioning. The office retained the distinctive sandalwood scent her father had always worn. The picture of Jeju, an impressionist painting of the island at sunset, dominated the wall behind the solid mahogany desk. Mi Ray had never imagined that this family work held so many secrets. Seo Jun helped remove the painting, revealing the safe built into the wall. Mi Ray typed in the date, April 15th, feeling a lump in her throat as she remembered the few memories she had of her mother. Let me Sakura stepped forward as the safe opened, her trembling fingers reaching for a black folder. I recognized that. Yuki had one just like it. The contents of the briefcase revealed an intricate web of documents, photographs, and bank records. Mireille felt her stomach turn at the sight of an old photo, her uncle Young-ho standing next to three intimidating-looking men in a traditional Japanese restaurant. The Yakuza, Sakura confirmed, her voice laced with bitterness. This man, she pointed to the oldest of the three, is Tanaka Hiroshi, my father. The records show million-dollar transfers between shell companies. CO June analyzed the documents carefully, all connected to a project called Phoenix. The port of Busan was just a front. Mireille realized, the pieces falling into place. The real business was trafficking, Sakura added. Drugs, weapons, people. The port would be the perfect distribution point. Yuki found out when he noticed discrepancies in the architectural designs. Secret areas, undocumented access routes. Mireille's cell phone vibrated. A message from Jin-ho. Dad's awake. He's asking about you and the contents of the safes. We need to take this to Prosecutor Chan, CO June declared, organizing the documents. He's been investigating Yakuza-related cases for years. No, Sakura protested. Not yet. There's more, much more. Young-ho isn't dead. The silence that followed was deafening. Mireille sat down heavily in her father's chair, her legs no longer supporting her weight. How do you know? He finally asked. Because I saw him in Tokyo 3 months ago, Sakura revealed. He's still active, using a false name, Yamamoto Kenji, and he's planning something big in Jeju. The resort, CO June concluded. The Vision Imperial Partnership. He must have found out about it. A knock on the door startled them. Mrs. Kim rushed in. Mississippi Park, there are policemen here. They say they need to talk to you about your uncle. Mireille exchanged alarmed glances with CO June. How did they know? Back room, she whispered. There's an exit to the garden. While CO June and Sakura escaped with the documents, Mireille straightened her blazer and headed for the main room. 2 detectives were waiting for her. Mississippi Park, the older man introduced himself. I'm Detective Kun. We've received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity involving your uncle, Park Young-ho. My uncle has been dead for 15 years, Mireille replied calmly, mentally thanking years of training in corporate negotiations. Then can you explain why security cameras recorded you at Incheon Airport 2 weeks ago? Mireille's heart skipped a beat, but her expression remained impassive. There must be some mistake. Her phone vibrated again. CO June. On our way to the hospital. Meet us there. Be careful who you trust. The detectives continued questioning for another hour, but Mireille held her ground. When they finally left, she noticed a black car parked discreetly across the street. She was being watched. At the hospital, she found CO June and Sakura in the cafe on the first floor. Jin-ho was already waiting for them. The documents are safe, CO June informed them. But we have another problem. Sakura has discovered that there's an informant inside Imperial. Someone close to your family, Sakura added. Someone who knew about the vault. Mireille felt the weight of suspicion on her shoulders. Who else knew? Who could be working for her uncle? Our father wants to talk to all of us, Jin-ho announced. He says it's time to reveal everything. As they climbed to the 4th floor, Mireille felt that they were about to cross a point of no return. Truths buried for 15 years were emerging, and the price of this revelation could be higher than either of them was prepared to pay. The hospital room was immersed in a heavy silence when Mireille, Jin-ho, CO June, and Sakura entered. Park Sam-ho was sitting up in bed, looking like he had aged a decade in a few hours. His tired eyes traveled over every face present, stopping for a moment on Sakura. So you really are Yuki's sister, he said softly. I always knew there was something familiar in your eyes. Mr. Park, Sakura approached the bed, her mask of composure finally cracking. For 15 years, I've carried the weight of my sister's death. I need to know the whole truth. Sam-ho gestured for everyone to sit down. Mireille instinctively sought out CO June's proximity, finding comfort in his silent presence. The story begins before the port of Busan. Sung Ho began, his voice gaining strength. Yum Ho has always been different, brilliant, but impatient. While I was gradually building the Imperial, he was looking for shortcuts to power. Your mother, he looked at Mi Ray and Jin Ho, Su Hyun, was extremely perceptive. She began to notice inconsistencies in the company's accounts, suspicious transfers. When she confronted Yum Ho, his voice broke. Mi Ray felt tears burning her eyes, fragmented memories of her mother surfacing, her jasmine perfume, the sound of her laughter, the last time she had seen her going out for a business dinner. The car accident was meticulously planned, Sung Ho continued. Yum Ho used his contacts in the Yakuza. I found out the truth months later, but he already had enough evidence to blackmail me. He threatened to expose other family secrets that would destroy your future. What's secrets? Jin Ho asked, his voice trembling. The true origin of Imperial, Sung Ho replied. The initial capital came from our own father's illegal business dealings. Yum Ho discovered everything in the old archives. Seo Jun leaned forward. That's why you gave me those documents to keep. It wasn't just about Busan. Exactly. You were young, an outsider, with no connections to the old Seoul families. The only one I could trust. And Yuki? Sakura interrupted. How did my sister get involved? She discovered something in the architectural designs that she shouldn't have seen. Secret tunnels, hidden structures. Yum Ho planned to use the port as a central point for an international trafficking network. Mi Ray stood up abruptly, walking over to the window. The Seoul night shone outside, seemingly oblivious to the dark secrets being revealed. The detectives, she turned. They have photos of Uncle Yum Ho in Incheon. He's back. Not just back, Sakura added. He's planning to use the Jeju project just as he was already planning to use Busan. The Vision Imperial Partnership is the perfect cover. I won't allow it, Seo Jun declared firmly. Vision will not be used for, a nurse rushed in, interrupting the conversation. Mr. Park, your tests indicated a worrying arrhythmia. We need to do some procedures now. While the medical team prepared Sung Ho, he held Mi Ray's hand. The safe at the summer house in Jeju, he whispered. There are more documents there. The password. Mr. Park, we need to take you now, the nurse insisted. In the corridor, the group processed the revelations in silence. Jin Ho looked devastated, years of admiration for his uncle crumbling in minutes. We need to go to Jeju, Mi Ray decided. Immediately. It's dangerous, Seo Jun warned. If Yum Ho is really back, it's our only chance of stopping him, Sakura argued. The documents in Jeju could be the key to exposing everything. Mi Ray felt her phone vibrate, a message from G1. Hospital security cameras hacked. Someone is watching you. We can't trust anyone, Mi Ray warned the group, showing them the message. Not even the police. I have a private jet, Seo Jun offered. We can leave for Jeju later tonight. I'll stay with Dad, Jin Ho decided. Someone needs to protect him here. In the hospital parking lot, Mi Ray noticed the suspicious black car again. Seo Jun noticed her tension and discreetly guided her to an alternative exit. My security team will meet us at the airport, he informed her as he drove. But we need to be extremely cautious. In the back seat, Sakura was typing furiously on her phone. I've just received information from Tokyo. The Yakuza are moving large sums to accounts in Jeju. Mi Ray looked out of the car window, watching Seoul disappear into the night. Her life had been turned upside down in a matter of days. What had begun as a simple mission to protect her brother had turned into a web of conspiracy, death, and family secrets. Are you ready for this? Seo Jun asked softly, his eyes meeting hers through the rear-view mirror. No, Mirai Anshavenisti. But we don't have a choice. Gimpo Airport loomed ahead, its lights flashing in the darkness like an omen of what was to come. The truth was on Jeju, hidden in another vault, protected by more family secrets. And this time, Mi Ray was determined to find out, no matter the cost. The Vision Group's private jet was cutting through the night sky towards Jeju. Mi Ray watched the lights of Seoul dim through the window as her mind went over all the revelations of the last few hours. Next to her, Seo Jun was studying architectural plans of the Jeju Imperial Resort on his tablet, occasionally making notes. The resort's underground structures, Sakura pointed out, leaning back in her armchair. They're similar to the Busan projects. Interconnected tunnels, restricted access areas that aren't officially documented. Young-ho is recreating the same scheme, Mi-rae concluded, a shiver running down her spine. But why come back now after all this time? Because the timing is perfect, Seo Jun replied, his eyes meeting hers. The Vision Imperial Partnership offers the ideal cover. Who would suspect two of Korea's biggest companies? The pilot announced the start of the descent. The lights of Jeju shone below them, the Halison volcano an imposing shadow against the starry sky. Mi-rae received a message from Jin-ho. Dad is stable. But he had some suspicious visitors after you left. Be careful. The Park family summer home was in a secluded area on the north coast of Jeju, surrounded by tangerine fields and protected by a state-of-the-art security system. When they arrived, however, something seemed out of place. The security cameras are off, Seo Jun noticed immediately, his posture tensing. Impossible, mille honnête. The system is autonomous, with its own generators. Someone's already here, Sakura whispered, her years of living in the shadows sharpening her instincts. Seo Jun gave a silent signal and 3 men discreetly emerged from a second car following them, his personal security team. With precise movements, they surrounded the property. The safe is in the office on the 2nd floor, Mi-rae informed them as they approached the entrance. But first we need the password. Dad couldn't finish telling me. The date of your parents' wedding, a familiar voice echoed from the shadowed balcony. Your father has always been an incorrigible romantic. Park Young-ho emerged from the darkness, 15 years older, but still carrying that aura of authority that Mi-rae remembered from her childhood. His hair was completely grey now, and a thin scar cut across his right eyebrow. Uncle. Mi-rae felt her voice falter, conflicting memories flooding her mind. The uncle who used to take her out for ice cream after school, the same man who had ordered her mother's death. Mi-rae, he smiled, that smile that used to reassure her on difficult days now looking like a sinister mask. You've grown up to be an extraordinary woman, just like your mother. Don't you dare talk about her, Mi-rae snapped, being restrained by Seo Jun's arm. Kim Seo Jun. Young-ho turned his attention to him. The boy wonder who became my biggest headache. And his eyes landed on Sakura, Yuki's little sister. You really do make an interesting trio. It's over, Young-ho she. Seo Jun declared firmly. We have all the evidence. Busan, the Yakuza, Soo Hyun's death. Evidence. Young-ho laughed softly. Do you think I'd come back without a plan? Right now, certain documents are being discovered in the Imperial Tower. Documents that prove Sung-ho's involvement with the Japanese mafia. In a few hours, my brother will be the prime suspect in all the illegal activities of the last 20 years. Mi-rae felt her blood run cold. Her father, still in hospital, would have no way of defending himself. Why, she asked, her voice breaking. Why destroy your own family? Family? Young-ho's expression hardened. Sung-ho was always the perfect son, the ideal heir, while I was just the shadow. But who built the real empire? Who made the connections that really matter? A sudden movement in the darkness caught everyone's attention. Seo Jun's security team had silently neutralized Young-ho's men positioned around the house. You made a mistake coming back, Sakura stepped forward. The Yakuza don't forgive traitors. Do you think you still have their support? I spent 15 years infiltrating their operations. They already know that you plan to betray them again. An expression of concern briefly crossed Young-ho's face, soon replaced by his mask of confidence. Things are just getting started, he smiled, retreating into the shadows. The real show is yet to come. Before they could react, an explosion lit up the night. The east wing of the house, where the office with the safe was located, was ablaze. No, Mi-rae shouted, but Seo Jun held her firmly. In the ensuing confusion, Young-ho disappeared. The sirens of the fire department could already be heard in the distance, mingling with the sound of the Jeju Sea. He planned the whole thing. Sakura watched the flames with a grim expression. He knew exactly when we'd come. There's something he doesn't know, Seo Jun declared, his eyes reflecting the fire. Your father gave me copies of all the important documents years ago, including the ones in that safe. Mireille looked at him, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. The battle was lost, but the war was just beginning, and now, more than ever, she needed to protect her family, what was left of them. Dawn on Jeju found Mireille, Seo Jun, and Sakura at the Vision Hotel, turning an executive suite into a makeshift operations center. Papers and laptops covered every available surface as they analyzed the documents that Seo Jun had kept safe all these years. The structure of the Jeju Imperial Resort is practically identical to that of Busan, Sakura pointed out, comparing the floor plans. But there's something different here. The tunnels are more elaborate, connecting to strategic points on the island. Mireille received a message from Jin Ho. Dad's awake. He's stronger. The police have come with a search warrant for Imperial Tower. Someone planted compromising documents. Young Ho is always one step ahead, Mireille sighed, running her hands over her tired face. How did he know we were coming to Jeju? Because he knows you, Seo Jun replied softly, pouring her a cup of coffee. He knows that protecting your family is his priority. Sakura's phone rang, making her blush when she saw the number. It's from Tokyo. My contacts in the Yakuza. The conversation in Japanese flowed quickly, Sakura's face becoming more tense by the moment. When she hung up, her hands were shaking slightly. The Yakuza are sending someone, she informed him. Tanaka Kenji, the new leader. My cousin. Your cousin? Mireille asked in surprise. My father's brother's son. He took over after the deaths in Busan, Sakura explained. And apparently, Young Ho made a deal with him too. We need to act before they arrive, Seo Jun decided. The documents I have prove Young Ho's involvement, but we need to find physical evidence of the new tunnels. The resort construction site, Mireille suggested. Excavations began 3 months ago. If there's anything irregular, a knock on the door interrupted the conversation. It was Ji-won, who had flown to Jeju in the early hours of the morning. I've got news, she announced, throwing a folder on the table. I found out who the informant inside Imperial is. Mireille opened the folder, feeling her heart stop as she saw the photos. It was Lee Sung-min, the maitre d' Atlas Seal, the same one who had witnessed her disguise as a waitress. He's been working for Imperial for 20 years, Ji-won continued. And he's Young Ho's half-brother. How? Mireille exclaimed. His grandfather's illegitimate son. Young Ho strategically placed him Atlas Seal to monitor the family's movements, Ji-won explained. He was the one who tipped them off about your disguise that night. Seo Jun cursed softly. That's why Young Ho always seemed to know the Imperial's every move. There's more. Ji-won hesitated. I found records of bank transfers. Lee Sung-min has been moving significant sums to an account in Macau. Money laundering, Sakura concluded. The same scheme as in Busan, but on a much larger scale. Mireille felt the weight of betrayal in her chest. How many people around her were involved in this web of lies? The resort officially opens in 2 weeks, Seo Jun commented, studying the calendar. It would be the perfect time to start illegal operations. The opening ceremony, Mireille realized. All the top executives and politicians will be there. The perfect distraction. And my cousin will be there too, Sakura added. The Yakuza never miss an opportunity to legitimize their business through corporate events. A plan began to form in Mireille's mind. What if we used the inauguration to our advantage? With all the main players gathered. It would be risky, Seo Jun warned, but his eyes sparkled with interest. I can contact the prosecutor's office discreetly, Ji-won offered. Prosecutor Chan has a team that specializes in organized crime. No, Sakuren Gedepti. The Yakuza have informants everywhere. We need to do this ourselves. Mireille walked over to the window, watching the resort construction site in the distance. The morning sun reflected off the glass panels already installed, creating a light show that masked the dark secrets buried in its foundations. We need access to the tunnels before the opening, she decided. Record everything. gather hard evidence. I can create a distraction at the construction site, G1 suggested. As HR manager, I have the authority to organize a surprise safety inspection. It's too risky, CO June protested, moving closer to Mireille. If something goes wrong, we're all already at risk, Mireille replied, turning to face him. For a moment, they stood like that, too close, the air between them filled with worry and something else that neither of them dared to name. Then we'll do it together, he finally decided. Sakura began organizing the documents. I have surveillance equipment we can use. Years of living in the shadows have their advantages. The plan was beginning to take shape, each piece fitting into a deadly puzzle. Mireille knew they were about to face not only her uncle, but one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Asia. 1 week, she declared. We have a week to expose everything before the Yakuza arrive. The phone rang again. It was Jean Ho. Mireille, Dad's asking about the summer house. What happened? Mireille exchanged glances with Seo Jun before answering. Tell him everything's fine. We're taking care of everything. The life felt heavy on her tongue, but it was necessary. His father needed to recover, and the truth about the fire would only upset him more. 1 week, Seo Jun repeated, his hand discreetly finding hers. To save not only the Imperial, but also your family. Mireille squeezed his hand back, finding strength in the contact. The sun continued to rise over Jeju, indifferent to the plans and conspiracies that unfolded under its light. The construction site of the Jeju Imperial Resort was a maze of unfinished structures and heavy machinery. Mireille, wearing a safety helmet and reflective vest, followed G1 to the site as she conducted a surprise safety inspection. Seo Jun and Sakura, disguised as external consultants, accompanied the team a few meters behind. The entrance to the tunnels should be near Sector C, Sakura muttered discreetly through the hidden communicator. The original blueprints show a maintenance area that isn't on the official plans. Mireille checked her watch. 14:37. They had less than an hour before the workers had to change shifts. G1 had strategically scheduled the inspection for this time, when most of the supervisors would be in a coordination meeting. Mississippi Park, one of the engineers approached. We've found some irregularities in the foundation of Sector D that need your attention. Of course, Mireille replied professionally, exchanging a meaningful glance with Seo Jun. It was the distraction they needed. While Mireille and G1 followed the engineer, Seo Jun and Sakura discreetly separated from the group, heading for Sector C. The constant sound of crushers and excavators masked their movements. Mireille, Seo Jun's voice sounded low over the communicator. We've found something. A security door disguised as an electrical panel. Mireille's heart raced, but she kept her composure as she pretended to examine security reports with the engineer. Can you get access? Sakura's working on it, he replied. But there's something strange. The security system is much more sophisticated than we expected. Just then, Mireille's phone vibrated with a message from Jean Ho. Urgent. Lee Sung-min was seen leaving the hospital after visiting his father. Something's wrong. Mireille felt her blood run cold. G1, she called to her friend quietly. You need to check the hospital cameras. Now. As G1 walked away to make the necessary calls, the communicator crackled again. We're in, Sakura whispered. Mireille, you need to see this. Keep the engineer busy, Mireille instructed G1 as she returned. I'll be back in 15 minutes. Navigating between construction equipment and piles of materials, Mireille found Seo Jun and Sakura in a partially lit corridor. The disguised door led to a metal staircase that ascended into the depths of the building. Cameras? She asked quietly. Temporarily disabled, Sakura confirmed. But we only have a short time before the system reboots. They descended quickly, the air becoming denser with each flight of stairs. Underground, a wide corridor stretched out towards the sea. Boxes stacked on the sides bore the logos of front companies. They're the same companies from Busan, Seo Jun observed, discreetly photographing them with a special device. Mireille approached one of the partially open boxes, her heart almost stopping at the sight of the contents. Carefully packaged sophisticated weapons. That's just the surface, Sakura commented darkly. I know these organizational patterns. The Yakuza are clearly involved in the logistics. The communicator suddenly came alive with G1's urgent voice. Mirai, Lee Sung-min gave your father something. He's having a severe reaction. The doctors. The transmission was interrupted by interference. At the same time, red lights started flashing in the underground corridor. Security system restarting, Sakura warned. We have to get out. Now. They ran back to the stairs, the sound of automatic doors closing echoing through the tunnel. At the last moment, they made it through the disguised door, emerging onto the construction site panting. Mirai, G1 ran towards them. Your father, they managed to stabilize him, but they found traces of a toxic compound in the tea that Lee Sung-min took. That bastard tried to kill him. Mirai clenched her fists. We need to. Miss Park, a familiar voice interrupted her. It was the engineer, looking confused. I thought you were in Sector D. I was just checking on a reported structural irregularity, CO June interjected smoothly. As a safety consultant, I requested Ms. Park's presence. Mirai forced a professional smile, but her mind was in chaos. Her father had been attacked, an illegal arsenal had been discovered under the resort, and the opening was getting closer. We need to act, she declared when they were finally safe in the hotel suite. We can't wait for the opening. They're already moving operations. And now they know we're investigating, Sakura added, analyzing the photos they'd managed to take. The attack on your father was a warning. CO June approached Mirai, his presence offering silent comfort. I have an idea, but it's risky. Lee Sung-min is the weakest link. If we can get him to confess. He tried to kill my father, Mirai interrupted, her voice trembling with restrained anger. He won't confess easily. No, Sakura smiled enigmatically. But he might confess without knowing he's being recorded. And I know exactly the right person for this mission. Mirai's phone rang again, and it was Jin-ho. Dad's awake. He's asking for you. And Mirai, he said, he knows where the original Busan documents are. They weren't in the safe in Jeju. A new hope ignited in Mirai's chest. The battle was not yet lost, but the war had definitely escalated to a new level of danger. Lucille was silent that night, only a few tables occupied by executives who preferred the restaurant's discretion for their negotiations. Lee Sung-min supervised the room with his usual efficiency, without showing that hours earlier he had tried to poison Park somehow. Mirai watched everything through the security cameras installed in a surveillance band in the underground parking lot. CO June stood beside her, tense, as Sakura prepared to enter the restaurant. Are you sure you want to do this? Mirai asked, adjusting the microphone hidden in Sakura's brooch. If he finds out who you are, he won't, Sakura smiled, applying red lipstick. To all intents and purposes, I'm just another Japanese executive interested in investing in Imperial, and Lee Sung-min can never resist an opportunity to show his influence. G1 had created an impeccable identity for Sakura, Midori Yamamoto, representing a group of Tokyo investors. The reservation at Lucille had been specially made by requesting Lee Sung-min as personal maitre d'. Stay focused on the Jeju project, CO June instructed. He needs to feel comfortable enough to brag about his involvement. Sakura nodded, her years of living a false identity having prepared her perfectly for this moment. When she entered the restaurant, her posture and demeanor were completely different from the Sakura they knew. Yamamoto-san, Lee Sung-min greeted her with a perfect bow. It's an honor to welcome you to Lucille. Mirai watched the interaction through the monitors, impressed by Sakura's transformation. Every gesture, every smile was meticulously calculated to lower Lee Sung-min's defenses. The tunnels on Jeju, Sakura commented casually after her second bottle of wine. I hear they're a masterpiece of discreet engineering. Lee Sung-min hesitated for a moment, but the alcohol and his need to brag spoke louder. Few know the real details. The underground structure is 3 times larger than it appears. Fascinating, Sakura leaned in, her interest clearly flattering his ego. And I imagine the security is just as impressive. The best systems money can buy, he smiled. Young Hoshi leaves nothing to chance. In the van, Mireille and Seo Jun exchanged tense glances. It was the first direct confirmation of Lee Sung-min's involvement with Young Ho. What about the incident at the hospital today? Sakura ventured, keeping her tone casual. I heard rumors about an attempted poisoning. Lee Sung-min's smile faltered for a moment. Accidents happen, especially with people who know too much. Like Yuki Tanaka in Busan? Sakura let slip, her eyes meeting his in the reflection of the wine glass. Recognition flashed across Lee Sung-min's face like a bolt of lightning. Before he could react, however, the lights in the restaurant flashed. The signal agreed with G1. We need to get Sakura out of there, Seo Jun declared, already moving towards the restaurant. But Lee Sung-min was quicker. Within seconds, security guards emerged from the shadows, surrounding Sakura. I didn't think I'd see Yuki's little sister again, he smiled coldly. Young Ho'll be very interested to know that you're still alive. Mireille didn't think twice. Leaving the van, she ran to the restaurant, Seo Jun at her heels. When they entered the hall, they found a chaotic scene, frightened customers, broken glasses, and Sakura facing two bouncers with a skill that revealed years of training. That's enough. Young Ho's voice cut through the chaos. He emerged from the private elevator, applauding slowly. What an interesting family reunion. It's over, Uncle, Mireille declared, her voice firm despite the fear coursing through her veins. We have your confession on tape, the photos of the tunnels in Jeju, everything. You do? Young Ho smiled, pulling a small device from his pocket. With a click, all the lights in the restaurant went out. Or do they only have what I've allowed them to have? When the emergency lights came on, Mireille realized that they were surrounded. Men in dark suits blocked all the exits. You know, Mireille, Young Ho approached. You really are a lot like your mother. The same determination, the same blind loyalty to family. That's what killed her in the end. You're wrong. A new voice echoed through the hall. Park Sung-ho was standing at the entrance to the restaurant, leaning on Jin Ho. Her loyalty saved her. It saved all of us. Young Ho murmured, genuinely surprised to see his brother standing there. It's over, Young Ho, Sung-ho declared. Prosecutor Chan is on his way with the original documents from Busan, the ones Mom hid before she died. The mention of his mother made Young Ho flinch. For a moment, Mireille saw a glimpse of the uncle he used to know, before bitterness and greed consumed him. The documents were with Grandma all along, Jin Ho explained softly. She knew we'd need them one day. The sound of sirens began to echo outside. Young Ho looked around, like a cornered animal, before his eyes landed on Mireille. Do you really think it ends here? He laughed bitterly. The Yakuza are already on their way to Jeju. In 48 hours, none of this will matter. The tension in Lucille was palpable as the sirens approached. Young Ho remained surprisingly calm, his calculating eyes assessing every face present. Mireille realized that, even when cornered, her uncle still looked like he was in control of the situation. The Yakuza arriving on Jeju in 48 hours is not a threat, Uncle, Mireille declared, stepping forward. It's exactly what we expected. A shadow of doubt crossed Young Ho's face. Seo Jun moved discreetly closer to Mireille, his presence a silent anchor. While you were busy planting false evidence against my father, Mireille continued, you didn't realize that Sakura kept in touch with dissident factions within the Yakuza. People who don't approve of her betrayal. Impossible, Lee Sung-min intervened, his face losing color. The contacts in Tokyo? They were double agents, Sakura added, a satisfied smile on her lips. My cousin Kenji may be the official leader, but there's a lot of internal discontent about his alliances with traitors like you, Young Ho. Park Sung-ho, still leaning on Jin Ho, walked slowly to a nearby table and sat down. 15 years ago, you destroyed our family out of greed. You killed your own sister-in-law, manipulated evidence, and ran away like a coward. I built this empire, Young Ho exploded, his mask of control finally cracking. While you were playing honest businessman, I created connections that made Imperial grow exponentially. Through blood and betrayal. Jin Ho retorted, his voice laced with disgust. And now I plan to use the Jeju resort to create the largest trafficking operation in Asia. The sound of doors being kicked and on the first floor of the restaurant made everyone turn around. Heavy footsteps came up the stairs. It's over, Seo Jun declared calmly. Prosecutor Chan has the original evidence from Busan, the recordings from tonight, and the photos of the tunnels in Jeju. Not to mention Lee Sung-min's taped confession about the poisoning. Young Ho surprisingly started laughing, a sound that sent shivers down Mi-rae's spine. Do you really think I don't have a plan B? He pulled a small device from his pocket. The tunnels in Jeju? They're full of explosives. One click and the whole underground complex disappears, along with any evidence. And along with the 50 workers on the night construction shift, Mi-rae added, her voice shaking with anger. You would sacrifice innocent lives? It wouldn't be the first time, Sakura commented bitterly, remembering the fire in Busan. Prosecutor Chong burst into the hall with his team at this point, guns drawn. Park Young-ho, Lee Sung-min, you're under arrest. One false move, Young-ho warned, raising the detonator, and we'll have a much bigger tragedy than Busan on our hands. Mi-rae watched her uncle, memories of her childhood mixing with the harsh reality of the present. The man who used to take her out for ice cream, who taught her to play chess, was now threatening to destroy innocent lives without hesitation. There's something you don't know, uncle. She stepped forward, ignoring Seo Jun's arm, trying to restrain her. While you were busy watching over me at the hospital today, our team in Jeju had already located and disarmed your explosives. Young-ho pressed the button frantically, but nothing happened. His face contorted into a mask of fury and despair. How? He roared. Because you're not the only one who knows how to play chess, Mi-rae replied softly. You taught me that the secret is to always be 3 moves ahead. The policeman advanced, quickly overpowering Young-ho and Lee Sung-min. As they were handcuffed, Mi-rae felt her legs go weak. Seo Jun discreetly supported her, guiding her to a chair. Mi-rae, her father called softly. You did what I never had the courage to do. You faced the truth head-on. Silent tears streamed down Mi-rae's face as she watched her uncle being taken away. A part of her heart still ached for the memory of the man he used to be. It's not over yet, Sakura reminded her, checking her phone. The Yakuza are still on their way to Jeju. My cousin isn't going to easily give up the territory he considers his by right. So, we have 48 hours, Seo Jun declared, his hand discreetly finding Mi-rae's under the table, to turn the resort's opening from a criminal facade into a trap for Asia's largest criminal organization. And this time, Jin Ho added, we'll do it as a family. Mi-rae looked out of Lucille's window, the lights of Seoul shining against the night sky. Somewhere over the Sea of Japan, a plane was probably already carrying Yakuza members towards Jeju, unaware that they were flying directly into a carefully planned ambush. The family battle might be over, but the war was far from over. And this time, there would be no places to hide. The sun was rising over Jeju Island, bathing the imperial resort in golden hues. Mi-rae watched the property from the temporary office set up on the top floor, where a joint team of special agents and Bijan security guards were finalizing preparations for the operation. In less than 12 hours, Asia's business elite would arrive for the official opening. The access points are all covered, Seo Jun announced, approaching with a cup of coffee. Sakura confirmed that the Yakuza plane took off from Tokyo an hour ago. Mi-rae nodded, her fingers unconsciously touching the jade brooch her mother used to wear, a gift Jin Ho had brought back from the hospital that morning, sent by her father as a talisman of protection. Tanaka Kenji won't be coming alone, Sakura commented, her eyes fixed on her tablet showing the security cameras. The presence of the Yakuza old guard suggests that this is more than just business, it's a demonstration of power. Mi-rae's phone vibrated with a message from G1. Prosecutor Chong in place. Special teams at all strategic points. Lee Sung-min has started cooperating, provided details of other operations. Lee Sung-min's confession had been the final blow to Young-ho's criminal network, revealing connections that stretched across Asia. Now locked up in separate cells, uncle and servant faced decades in prison. The guests will start arriving in 6 hours. Jin Ho entered the room, adjusting his tie. Dad insisted on taking part in the ceremony by video conference. He said he wouldn't miss this moment for anything. Mi-ray smiled, thinking of how her father, even hospitalized, maintained his characteristic determination. He deserves to see the Imperial return to its true purpose. Mi-ray, Seo-jun called softly, guiding her to a more private corner of the room. Whatever happens today, I need you to know. No, she interrupted him gently, placing a finger over his lips. Tell me later, when all this is over. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Guests arrived in limousines and private helicopters, marveling at the resort's impressive architecture. Every smile, every greeting was carefully monitored by discreet cameras. At 6 p.m. sharp, Mi-ray took to the stage set up in the main hall for her inauguration speech. The light of the sunset came through the glass panels, creating a natural spectacle that lived up to the grandeur of the moment. The Imperial has always represented more than just luxury hospitality, she began, her voice firm despite the tension she felt. It has represented the vision of a family, a legacy of excellence and integrity. That was when the motion detectors in the tunnels were activated. Through the communicator in her ear, Mi-ray heard Sakura confirm, "They're here." Without losing her composure, Mi-ray continued her speech as tactical teams moved silently through the underground corridors. Seo-jun, positioned near the stage, was in constant contact with security. Tanaka Kenji emerged from the private elevator accompanied by 4 men, his impeccable suit contrasting with the traditional Yakuza tattoos visible on his wrists. His eyes met Sakura's across the hall, recognition and surprise mixing in his expression. "Cousin," he murmured in Japanese. So the rumors were true. The moment of tension was broken by the sound of controlled explosions in the tunnels. The tactical team had intercepted the main Yakuza group trying to access the underground complex. "Ladies and gentlemen," Prosecutor Chang's voice rang out over the loudspeakers, "please remain calm and follow the instructions of our security team." The ensuing chaos was controlled with military precision. As guests were evacuated in an orderly fashion, special agents emerged from their disguises among the staff, surrounding Kenji and his men. "It's over, cousin," Sakura declared, approaching. "The evidence isn't just about Young Ho, it's about the whole operation in Asia." Kenji laughed bitterly. "You betrayed your own family. Not Sakurari Blythe family. I honored Yuki's memory by doing the right thing." Mi-ray watched the scene from the stage, her heart racing but her posture unwavering. Years of secrets, lies and betrayals were coming to an end at that moment. "Mi-ray," Seo-jun called out, holding out his hand to help her down from the stage. As their fingers intertwined, they both felt the weight of the moment, not just the end of a criminal operation, but the start of something new. Hours later, with the operation completed and the Yakuza members in custody, Mi-ray found herself back in the top-floor office. The sun had set, but the lights of Jeju created a spectacle of their own against the night sky. "The resort will open normally next week," Jin Ho reported, finishing a call. "Dad is already planning the renovations of the spaces that will need to be modified." "What about Sakura?" Mi-ray asked, watching the woman who had sacrificed so much for justice talking to federal agents. "She'll receive full protection in exchange for her testimony," Seo-jun replied, approaching with 2 glasses of champagne. "Vision has offered her a legitimate position as an international security consultant." Mi-ray accepted the glass, finally allowing herself to relax. "Now tell me," she smiled, "what did you want to talk about earlier?" Seo-jun placed his cup on a nearby table, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart race. "That even without disguises or lies, you're the most fascinating person I've ever met." The kiss that followed was gentle, years of tension and secrets dissolving into a moment of pure truth. When they parted, they both smiled, knowing that their story had only just begun. Outside, Jeju continued its eternal dance of light and shadow, but inside the Imperial, a new era was dawning, one built on foundations of honesty, redemption, and love.